You are in Where's Huddle with me, Bram, and I am so fired up to announce that rejoining me after way too long, a high-profile sports author with bylines at The Ringer, The Herald, Real GM, and Fansided, the former Warriors beat writer for the Bay Area News Group, the current host of the Locked On Heat and Locked On NBA, a longtime and coveted guest on this podcast, and a man who never shies away from having a strong opinion on a food choice, Mr. Wes Goldberg. What's going on, Wes?
High profile, huh? I don't know
I
about
went
that, but I'll take the compliment.
I went high
That's new.
profile. I went
Yeah.
coveted. I threw coveted in
Coveted's
there.
pretty good too. Yeah,
Yeah,
coveted's
I'm not
good.
even like I'm not totally sure what it meant. I almost looked it up, and I wasn't going to admit that to you, but here we are. I mean, you always end up getting my transparency, so we reach
Well,
it pretty early here.
I'm coveted to be here.
See, I can't even call you on that. I'm not sure if you fucking used it right. I am sure I need to ask you this though: hard shell or soft tacos? What's the move?
It's a great question, and I'm glad this is the first thing that we're talking about. I am definitely a soft shell guy, and I prefer flour over corn. And I will pretty much do that every single time, except, and the only exception is at Taco Bell, that little side taco, that little extra taco thing that you get. I like their hard tacos more than their soft tacos, so that'll be the only, but only in the tacos. Everything else, I'll pretty much go soft. But yeah, I'm a soft taco guy except for the little extra Taco Bell one.
Dude, any other day, we'd spend a good 15 to 20 minutes getting into this. I mean, per usual, we agree. I don't really understand why these soft corn tacos exist. I don't know why anyone would ever go that way. They taste like shit. They're much smaller. Like I'm not on board. But talk about burying the lead. We've got a huge game to talk about here. And I think this is the best way for me to start it. About 15 hours ago, you tweet out these three words, quote, Steph Curry, man, end quote.
Mm.
Take me through it, dude. What were you thinking? Why does that get thrown out into the universe?
You know what? Because I had nothing else to say. I didn't know what else to say. I mean, watching this Steph Curry flurry thing happen again for the umpteenth millionth time, and I'm just like, what else is there to like? What am I? Steph Curry is good. Like everybody knows that. Like what else is there to tweet? But I felt like this is just me with the FOMO thing, just feeling like I had to be part of NBA Twitter while that was happening, and so I was like, let me just get something out so people know that I'm watching. I don't know. I was also working last night. Like I had the late night Locked On NBA show, so obviously I had to watch it. Would have been watching it either way. But what else is there to say about this guy? And yet it's still delightful and surprising every time it happens. It feels like it's the same exact version of it every single time, but new at the same time. And I don't really know how that gets accomplished. Is it just because he's doing it in front of different players than he was doing it 8 years ago? I don't know.
It's the combination, I think, of inevitability and magic. You know,
Hmm.
like when you see something magical, it feels impossible. You know, like there's no way that this can be replicated. There's no way that I can understand it. It's coming out of total left field. But when something's inevitable, it feels like, well, it can't be stopped. And I can predict it. And off it comes. And when Steph goes off like that in those fucking flurries, it's that combination, dude. And I don't know if there's any other athlete in my life who does that. There's other people who are capable of the dominance, but there's not someone who's capable of dominating in a way that seems like it's impossible on a consistent basis.
Yeah, it's almost like, of course he did that. Like,
Yeah.
of course, right?
Yeah.
And I think the only thing I've ever compared it to is Tiger Woods in the late 90s and early
Ah,
2000s, where it was, oh, he's going to pull this out in the last four or five holes.
mhm.
This guy's just going to go on a run here, but I don't know how he's going to do it this time. And he's going to hit his drive into the rough. And I don't know. He's behind a tree. Like, how's he going to do it? And he just lays it up right over the bunker. And you're like, how did that happen? And he's just doing things that nobody in that sport has ever done. Tiger Woods at that point, obviously. Now everybody is a Tiger Woods copycat. And Steph Curry is very similar in that he had been doing things that nobody else has ever done. And now there's several players in the league who do it the way that Steph Curry does it. Heck, there's a guy on his own team that kind of does it a little bit every once in a while, and Buddy Hield, but nobody to the degree and the magnificence and on the stage and with the
Uh-huh.
stakes and the bright lights and the cameras that Steph Curry does it at. And that's really the big difference too, is he always just holds them out. It's like the Olympics, this, like on a big, like this game doesn't matter more than any of the other games, or I guess maybe it does because it's an NBA Cup game, but whatever that means. But it meant something emotionally
A
that he did
hundred
it.
percent.
And you're like, and he knows that, and that's why he got so fired up during that game too. So there is, I think you're exactly right. It's inevitability and a magic that all kind of comes along with it. And I guess, yeah, I think Tiger Woods is the closest thing I've ever seen to it.
I love that suggestion. I'll throw out another name, Barry Bonds. The only
It's a great one.
Yeah,
Yep.
and the thing that we have here and what you nail with Tiger is the thing he's doing is impossible. Golf is the hardest fucking deal. And the thing, next that might be just as hard is hitting a curveball in baseball. And both Tiger and Barry and then Steph hitting those three-pointers are doing impossible things on a regular basis. The distinction I'll draw with Steph is joy. Like Tiger was always all business,
Such
and
a
he
good
just
point.
stomped his way to it. Barry
John
was a
Wick.
legendary
Yeah.
asshole. That's exactly right. Like, whereas Steph, even when he's a dick, even when he's screaming into the camera or doing the night shit, it's done with this playful fucking era where even if you hate him, I think it's hard to not enjoy at least that moment. You might get frustrated with him, but I think you have fun with him.
He had a new one yesterday, a new celebration. Like he hit one of those threes, or no, maybe he passed it to somebody. Hit it. I can't. There was something that happened that was good for the Warriors, and he started doing like this, like snake kind of motion thing, like under the basket. And I was like, well, this is new. Like kind of moving his shoulders back. I'm like, this is kind of weird. But he doesn't care. Like he kind of looks silly sometimes doing it, but that kind of speaks to the boyish playfulness that kind of comes with it.
Dude, I'm so jealous of that. I'm the type of person who can't dance in a public space. Like I didn't dance at my wedding, dude. Like we did I hugged her and turned around in a circle like we were in junior high, but like no other dance. The idea that Steph is so comfortable that whatever comes to his mind is like, fuck it. Like this is how I'll celebrate right now. Whereas like I'm canned in every other setting. I immediately like it's yet another thing that
He lets the music move him, right? It's the music that's the roaring of the crowd, but it's like whatever that is, he's got it. I also want to think one more observation on Steph, and he's developed this new thing other than some of these newer celebrations is and I remember when I was covering the Warriors, Steve Kerr would always comment on this, even like off to the side, just being like, I love that Steph doesn't sell contact.
yeah,
Like he doesn't try to cheat
yeah.
the game. And I do believe that that's mostly true now. But he has developed a new thing, and I think over the last year and a half, 2 years or so, where he will take a three-pointer and then his body just launches backwards and he
Yep.
ends up on the floor. And I don't know that he's selling the contact so much as that his body doesn't even really understand what's happening sometimes because he'll be going so fast that he kind of takes, Steph has two different shots that I can talk about that I can, speak of is
Yeah.
the standard Steph Curry shot and the one that he's running and he's almost launching it while
Sure.
sideways,
Yeah.
and it's when he does those sideways kind of propulsing it forward shot that I think his body just like, I don't know, something about like the gravity around him just kind of propels him backwards. Like nobody touches him and he ends up on the floor. And what I love about it is he never looks at the ref to
Yeah. That's
call the
right.
foul. He knows that nobody touched him. He also doesn't know why he's on the floor in that moment. But like the shot will go in and I don't even know how it happens. It's like this weird new Steph Curry shot. I'm like, don't do this one at home. Like this is just Steph.
We are in the era of foul merchants, right? Like SGA, like our world's best players are also looking for fouls, And for years, I'm positive that the coaching staff on the Warriors have talked to Steph. Like that's the next step, dude. You got to start selling these fouls, and I think you've identified the disconnect because he'll occasionally, when he falls back, his feet will be forward, So it's
Mhm.
obvious he's trying to make the fucking contact, but because it's such a foreign idea for him, after he hits the ground, it just gets up and bounces, which is like that's not what we need. We need you to fucking bitch if you want the
Roll,
call. Yeah,
roll around,
exactly
like
right.
hold your hip or something. Come
Pretend it's like
on.
a soccer, like it's a full blown European soccer fucking flop. But that's not who he is. Let's transition, man. So we're obviously on the other side of an incredible Dallas game. We're gonna do our glass half full. You'll remember we look back on recent Warriors hoop. You had something you like and don't. We are on the other side of an unbelievable road trip for Golden State, but I'm going to throw you a softball about whether or not they're a contender down the line. So we can really just bathe in the Dallas game. Did you go first, man? Something that sticks out, something you liked or didn't about the Klay return?
So I'll talk about the basketball game, and this is going to be a little thing that I picked up on X's and O's wise, but it was maybe my favorite moment in the entire game was Warriors second half court possession, kind of got bogged down by Maverick the Dallas defense there. Steph gives up the ball, gives it to Draymond, and they're off to the right side of the court. And Steph does what Steph does. He just runs around the court like 18 times and then just whatever. Goes to the other side, comes all the way back, and he's on the court with Moses Moody, and it's Draymond and Moody on the right side. Steph loops back around baseline, comes
Yep.
back to the right side of the court, and then kind of just runs around Moody. And as he's coming by Moody, around Moody, Moody's guy kind of takes that one step towards Steph,
Yep.
and Moody immediately darts towards the
Yep.
basket. And Draymond just with the most nonchalant, like Josh Allen pass, like his fingers didn't even move. It just bounces it, hits Moody running to the basket, easy layup. And I was like, oh, Moses Moody,
Yeah.
he figured it
Yeah.
out.
That's
Like it
exactly right.
happened. Like he just figured it out. It just clicked. And I'm sure there was other moments where he's done stuff like that, but that was the first time where I was like, oh, he saw Steph Curry coming towards him, waited for the exact right time, and Draymond knew that
Yep.
Moses Moody was going to do it. And that was the most important part of that play is he delivered that pass on tar not to Moody, but where Moody was running to, so that he can get it in stride and finish with the easy layup. So that was my favorite moment. That was non like Steph going off
Dude, it's a great
related.
observation, and it's kind of a microcosm of this season. I mean, they're all playing on a line together again. I mean, it's a strength in numbers situation. It feels like 14-15 yet again, and part of that has to be that they're all on the same page. And Moody, personifies that. I'll give you one, a random one, and I can only say this because they won. If they fucking lose the game, dude, I'm gonna pretend like I didn't care and like, oh, whatever. Clay is just another player, and that's not true. Of course, it's not true. And now that we've won, I can pay him this compliment. I'm gonna give you a random analogy. My daughter and I are playing this video game right now called Astrobot. It's a fun game, PlayStation 5, and there's these levels where you have to race to try to set a time limit. Yeah. And when you play a level you've already played, they'll have a ghost of the previous time you've played. Whatever your
Mm,
fastest time on the level is represented by this ghost that goes in front of you. And so you're constantly trying to beat your fastest time. You're literally chasing your ghost. Last season, watching Klay play was like watching him play that fucking video game. He was constantly chasing the ghost of who he used to be in that building. He could see the defense he used to play. He could see the offensive role he used to occupy, and he couldn't quite catch up to it. And the angst that occupied was hard for all of us. Watching him last night in a different setting, no ghosts, just watching Klay Thompson play basketball again was satisfying. Was it took
mm.
the angst out of it. So that was great. I'll admit to you, Wes, I practiced that ghost story and then flubbed it a little bit. How'd it land? Did it feel like the
I,
analogy hit?
I just love that you're spending quality time with your daughter, but instead of just focusing on that, you're thinking about analogies for the podcast. You're like,
You
I think
shut
this is
up.
content.
Yeah, you shut up. It was fucking great. That came to me as I was playing with her like this morning before we went to school. Also, I probably shouldn't be admitting that we're playing video games on a weekday. So we'll go right past that. I'll give you one more thing I liked. Steph taking the game over when it mattered most. So I just admitted to you, I wasn't honest with myself heading into this game. The Warriors having this great season, dude. They were 8-2 heading into the game, and so I wanted to tell people what Klay was telling people. It's another game. It's November. Like this. It's just another matchup. As long as who cares really? And then when they're down to Dallas in the fourth quarter, and it looks like we're gonna fucking lose, I realized what it meant to me. Like it really had an emotional spot. And for Klay, I'm sorry, for Steph to grab that game by its throat and hammer home the win when I really felt vulnerable about it was just fantastic, man. I'm so lucky to have him in my sporting life. So there you go. That's another thing I liked.
It made the and I really don't want to rag on Clay because it was so much fun to watch him do what he did because he had his own little flurry there in that game, but it did sort of hammer home the reason why he's not in Golden State anymore. Where watching
Why?
it, not just because of Steph, because Steph can still do it. Steph's no different.
Yeah.
Steph's the same as he was 10 years ago. He's just, if anything, he's better. I don't know. Like, I don't know. He's the same. He's doing the same things. He's the same. Um, Draymond had some unreal defensive plays, and he's
Yeah.
last year was not Draymond's best season. I don't know that if he
No.
was in shape. He didn't look as athletic, but he looks great. Not just in that game, but all season long. He's back to he's going to be on all defensive team if he keeps this up. Um, it
His
doesn't look
block
the
on
same.
Gadford.
It doesn't look. Oh, the block on Gafford was unreal, man. Like that was one of my favorite plays of the game too. But like, it doesn't look the same for Clay. Clay looks like a 3-point shooter who gets hot.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it just doesn't feel the same. And the difference to me between Steph and Clay, and especially when they were on the same team, like peak Splash Brothers, was there's a million 3-point shooters in the league. They all have hot quarters, right? They'll all hit 2, 3 in a row. They'll all score 9 points in 5 minutes at some point and,
Yep.
and kind of take a game over. The difference between Steph and Clay was that their 9 points in 5 minutes was like 15 points in 2 minutes. It was just different. It came out. It was so much more overwhelming.
Yep.
And Clay can still do like the 9 points in 5 minutes
Mm-hmm.
thing. Steph could still do the 15 points in
Mm-hmm.
2 minutes thing. And that's really the biggest difference now. And so it did hammer it home a little bit. And so I was a little sad because of it, but I was also like, also impressed by Steph and Draymond for being able to kind of still hit these levels.
Sure. I completely agree. The welcome they gave Klay sticks out. I mean,
Hmm.
so what the Warriors did behind the scenes, Klay shows up in a video that's now been showed 1,000 times, but Raymond Ritter apparently organized that
Not
400
surprising at all.
yeah, there you go. The czar organizes 400 employees to meet Klay as he's coming in through the side entrance, and they're all wearing the captain's hat, and you could tell it meant something to Klay. It resonated. And then fast forward, Klay comes onto the court, and now there's 19,000 people wearing the same fucking hat in the fan base, celebrating the hell out of him before they even played the video. And what struck to me about that, I have seen unified responses from crowds, and passionate unified responses from crowds, but they're always negative. KD goes back to OKC and they're screaming cupcake at him, unified,
Hmm.
but negative. Kyrie goes back to Boston and they're screaming whatever racist shit they're screaming at him there, unified, but negative. I've seen lukewarm positive stuff like, oh, he's back. Hooray. Andre goes back to Denver. There's these things where like it happens, but it's 2 seconds. Last night was unified, passionate, and positive for Klay. And that's an outlier for me. It's a very specific thing to his relationship with this area and where the Warriors are. If they go into that game and they're about 500, I mean, all the things are still the same. They're still doing the giveaway. They're still doing the employees, like all that shit. I don't know if the fans' reactions would be the same. The same way, if I ever got a divorce, the only way I'm going to be happy for my ex-wife is if I found somebody else first. Like I've landed on my feet and everything's fine. Like, oh no, I hope
Right.
you're good. That's where the Warriors are. We're on the other side of
Yeah.
this divorce, but early on, things are going fine. We've got Buddy Hield in our life. So Klay, I hope you're doing really well.
Yeah, Luca seems nice,
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
I
exactly
bet he's
right.
got a great
How's that
personality.
going? Kyrie, is he funny? Like what's behind the scenes with him? So yeah, just good
It,
stuff.
it's a great observation, and at the risk of going too meta here, I mean, you're absolutely right. Where I think over these last couple of weeks, it's really driven home the point that it's much easier to unify a large group of people over anger than it is joy.
Oh
And
yeah.
um and so the fact that the Warriors were able to accomplish something like that, it really does speak to how important it is Klay Thompson is
Yeah.
to this city and to that fan base. What did you think of the captain's hats?
In what way? Like good idea, ridiculous. When you ask me that,
Go ahead. Superlative is up to you.
yeah, ridiculous, but
Yeah.
thought out, and I mean here, actually, let me just put it this way, appropriate. He is quirky. He's weird.
Yeah.
That's what's made
Yeah.
him
Yeah.
so fucking popular here. If they'd given out toasters, it would have made sense to me, and so that they found a wearable toaster, for lack of a better way to phrase it, something that exemplifies, we know you, we remember you, and
Right.
here's a way we can show it. It was better than a clay bobblehead or something else.
Yep.
I mean, by the time like the TNT guys are all wearing it, it got a little fucking ridiculous. Like it was a
That's where
little
I was
proppy.
like, maybe if it was just like the first couple rows, like there's a lot. There's like 20,000 people wearing captain's hats, and I made this joke on last night's show, but I'll make it here again. Like it felt a little bit too much like a fry cook convention in Bikini Bottom. Like I was just like, why are all these people wearing this hat? It just seems a little strange to me. So
Are you surprised he didn't boat in? I thought we
it would
held
have been
bets.
it would have been too me
Yeah,
to bring the boat in. I think Klay and that would have just how these athletes are. They don't want any distractions. They have their routines. It's like bring me in on the team bus.
yeah.
It's weird enough that I have to walk in through the visitor entrance and I don't have a parking spot here anymore. I'll just do that.
Do you think he liked? Let me phrase that a different way. Of course, he liked it. If they had run by Klay the idea of all those Warriors employees waiting for him as he comes through the entrance, would he have greenlit it?
No.
Did he want that at all? Yeah. Would have he avoided it? The article I read today said that they kept it secret because they knew that if Klay knew that was coming, he would have found some other way in the building. Do you think that's
Yeah.
true?
Yeah, he would have came in through the ceiling or something. Like, yeah, he would have avoided it 100%. Well, apparently him and like the Warriors tried to get him and Steph to address the crowd at halftime, and they
Yeah.
both got together and put the kibosh on that. So, yeah, that's not Clay's deal.
I like the idea of like all the employees are getting ready, like a surprise party. You're like, it's happening, it's happening. Put on your hats, here we go. And then the camera flashes to this fool like a cat burglar coming in through the fucking ceiling, like Ocean's 11 or something, like coming down on strings into the locker room. Like, oh,
And you
you'll never
send that
catch
guy,
me.
that fake Clay guy in. Send
Yeah,
fake Clay guy in to go through, and they're
and
just
he's doing
like,
the same
"Oh, hey,
thing,
Clay, what's
giving
up?"
double
Like,
thumbs
meanwhile, it's
up.
like, "What's
Like,
that?
oh.
What's that? You hear a bouncing on the court? What is that? And it's just Klay like practicing free throws. Like, how did he get in here?
Have you ever had a reception like that anywhere? I mean, like not fucking 400 people with like specified clothing for you, but just some kind of unify, even if it was 5 people,
And when I
something
walk through the
where
door, my dog will say hi. That's about as close as I've ever gotten as my dog jumps up on me. Like I can't even imagine what that would feel like. It must be when you remove the fact that you are about to do something competitive and athletic and physical and hard and emotional. I that's gotta and then I don't know. He also lost the game, and I'm sure he hates that. But that one day he'll look back on it and be like, "That was really awesome."
yeah, hell yes. And the pictures, I mean, just like literally just the images of him looking into the crowd and then
Hmm.
all those people wearing those hats. There's more so than a statue, more so than the 4 fucking
Hmm.
rings, more so than when they retire his jersey. That image, when you came back, that we all wanted to make sure you understood what you meant here. I'd frame the shit out of that. I was a camp counselor for years. One year I was an administrator. So most of the time I was with the kids and playing with them and really enjoyed it. And then they offered me more money. And so one year I took that year off and was kind of above the kids, would play with them, but not like directly involved. And we had some parent thing where we brought in the kids and the parents, and I had to do some speech. And the kids gave a Bram chant. Um, and I mean, when I say kids, that makes it sound big. It was like 3 kids who did it. Whatever, they did it hell of loud. I was supposed to give a speech after that. I got teary and didn't, Wes. So like, there's no. If you had asked me to like play a hoop game, like, there's no way. And I'm not even sure they were chanting Bram. It could have been damn. I don't know, but I did. I did receive it that way.
Spam,
Yeah, could have
whatever.
been spam. They were
That's what we
pretty
want
big
for lunch
spam
today.
fans. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that could have come out. In fact, I don't want to think about that any further. Here is something I didn't like: the Klay shimmy. It hit me in a weird place, dude. I didn't like it, and in fact, I've got a follow up story. But first, definitive response: the shimmy, fun or disrespectful?
Clay's shimmy in particular.
Uh huh.
Um, Fun because it was disrespectful. Like
If
I
you're
liked it. I liked seeing a little bit of like an animosity. I wanted to see some meanness. I wanted
yeah,
to see something from Clay, and that was it. It didn't he didn't leave on good terms. We all know that. Like they could try to frame it as much as that.
yeah.
We can read about Steve Kerr driving up to LA and it's like, yeah, I think we all made a decision together. It's like that sucked for Clay. Come on. And it sucked for Clay for the last calendar year. I wanted to see a little bit of something. So I actually enjoyed that.
Would you like to hear a very long analogy about me playing video games with my daughter that sums up how terrible it was for him, or
I
no?
would
I
love that.
mean,
Yeah.
okay, I appreciate. I'll do that later on. I've stolen some more confidence
Bonus
from
episode.
your. Yeah, I got you. I got you. No problem. Uh the shimmy bothered me, but I can't separate it. Here's why. So I watched the game last night on tape delay. I met a friend, a friend who I love, got a little estranged from, and we put this date on the calendar weeks ago of like, let's sit down and work this shit through. And so it's the kind of deal where like I couldn't just not go, like if I'm pushing off the date. And so I realized it's the Klay game. And as
Oh
a
no.
gesture to me, the friend has the meeting at a sports bar. And so I'm in this fucking sports bar and I can't watch it, like because I'm taping it at home. So that was its own experience. But I drive home and on the way back, one text gets through. I'm always really careful if I haven't watched the game to like try not to read anything. And the text that got through was from my boy who texted, Klay shouldn't have shimmied. And so that's in my mind the whole fucking time. And I'm watching the game on fast forward. I'm not, no replays, no halftime, because I got to get to the end of this. And so I miss his shimmy in the second quarter. And I get into that final minute, and Wes, I thought Klay was going to hit some kind of impossible fucking three and shimmy his ass to Dallas. And like, dude, I took it hella hard. Like I was really, really angry about the possibility of it. And so when they won, it was almost like they won twice. Like I had mentally prepared for this terrible deal. So I've really built up the shimmy in my mind. I didn't like it. I now that I have seen the replay, even though he didn't do it as a game winner, fuck him. You didn't have to make fun of Steph. Show him some goddamn respect, man.
Shimmy stress, shimmy anxiety. I mean, it's real, I guess. I respect that. When I replay I like to fly through games at the same time on
Yeah.
replay. You get to skip the free throws, the commercials, and you realize how much time is wasted on so many of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Like, just keep playing. Like, we can get through this thing.
The fast forward 30 seconds button is just gold. I use that in
It is.
football now. Like no
Oh my God.
huddles, nothing, off it goes. But here's the like I've been holding on to, and I've been holding on until I saw you again. And I'm nervous about it. All right. I want you to be gentle. I want you to tell me how ridiculous I am. The thing I like is that the Warriors may have created the new way forward again. All right. So here's what I mean. The Warriors were the first team to really, not first team. The Warriors were the first team to weaponize and make 3-point shooting a championship enterprise. It used to be you played big ball and Barkley told us they couldn't win. The Warriors, off they go. They switch it over. Similar defensively, the Warriors are one of the first teams to really weaponize defensive positionless basketball. With Draymond's versatility, we don't need people to occupy certain roles. And so they've created these ways forward. The way forward I'm talking about now is it's possible they are changing the league with their emphasis on depth. I don't think it was on purpose. I think they were trying to fix their books and re-enter the fray maybe even next year. But in the process, it seems like they found this 11-man rotation that could be the new way forward. That the big three shit isn't really working because those teams don't have depth. And now we're seeing the Warriors beat people with waves after waves after waves. I'm nervous because we're 11 games in. It's really fucking early. And you are the exact person to tell me how hyperbolic I'm being. So what do you think? Do I have a point here? Is it too early to say? Where do you stand?
No, you definitely have a point. And I think you look at defensively what the Warriors have been able to do. And yeah, Draymond's awesome, but he's their only awesome defensive player. Other than Gary Payton II, in his minutes kind of come and go.
Yep.
They're really good defensively because these guys are able to just ball out in these short little spurts and play with so much energy. And so much of defense, as we know, is effort and energy. And they have veteran smart players like Anthony Melton and all these guys and things like that. But you're on to something here. And I do wonder how much of this Steve Kerr was inspired by the Olympics from, where you have to also play really deep and short minute bursts and stuff like that to keep your energy up.
Sure.
But it's not just the Warriors who are doing it. The Cleveland Cavaliers, who are 12-0,
right,
are doing the exact same thing. And it's not just the depth, it's also keeping your star players' minutes limited if you can afford it. So you're able to afford to do that because you have the depth.
Yep.
Right? Like Nikola Jokic has to play 38 minutes a night because that bench stinks.
Yep.
So he has to. But if your bench doesn't stink, then your star players just don't have to play as much. And when they're limited at 30 minutes-ish a game, and the Spurs were doing this with Duncan and Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili 2014, 2013. They were doing the same thing. They just weren't going as deep. They were just, also playing Manu 30 minutes off the bench. But, the Cavs are going 12, 13 guys deep a lot of these games too. And it's working for them. When you're able to just out energy the other team, especially in a league that is clearly dealing with some amount of wear and tear just across the board. There was that graphic. I don't know if you saw this, Bram, the other day on Twitter. It was kind of going out there what these guys are basically running a marathon every single game.
Right.
With the amount that they're running. And it's just based off of 10, 20 years ago, it's a different sport. These guys are playing flatly at just a different sport now, where there's just so much more activity. It's a way more physical in terms of physically taxing. I think you're just moving all the time. And when you have a team that's as deep as the Warriors or the Cavaliers, you see them be able to pad their record a little bit. Now, I will say this. I'm still trying to figure out what the viability of that is in terms of championship potential. Because at the end of the day, you still need a solid number 2 option, a really good number 3 option, and 7 or 8 guys who you really freaking trust. And that's going to be Steve Kerr's most difficult assignment this season, if the roster stays the same, is finding those 7 guys who, knuckle crunch time, this is who I want.
It's why it reminds me of what they did with the 3-pointer. Because when it first happened, when they first started really doing it, it's well, that's great. And this regular season success is great, but fuck, man, you don't win championships with 3-pointers, and it wasn't until they did it that they acknowledged it. You also illustrated why I was both excited and afraid to ask you that question. So amazing fucking analysis by you. You go out of your way, yeah, Bram, great take. You got that. Also, definitely not the first. In fact, not even the first this year. The fucking Cavs, fuck you, and the Spurs, fuck you, and a couple other people. So just nicely played, man. I thought I was gonna get nothing but flowers, and it was flowers, and you slapped me with them. So I'm impressed by it.
Flowers with thorns. It's a little bit yeah.
I got some golden questions for you, but first, a quick word from Underdog. Huddle listeners, have you heard Underdog? It is the place to go if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching games. On Underdog, you compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more player stats. No complicated money lines, no need to understand the point spread or have any knowledge on anything related to gambling in any way. You just need to know a little bit about basketball and be willing to make a guess. For example, If you think SGA will score more than 29.5 points against the Pelicans tonight, or that Father Time will finally catch LeBron and he'll have less than 23.5 against the Grizz, you make those picks. And if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. Wonder if you can play in your area? Underdog is available in 33 states, including Texas, Georgia, and the Golden State of California. Underdog is the best place to play Pick'em. So sign up for your shot to win real cash prizes all season long. Download the app today and use code WHP to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's code WHP to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Higher or lower, you make the call on Underdog. Must be 18 plus, unless you're in Alabama or Nebraska, in which case you got to be 19 plus, and 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona. And you also have to be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Few options there. You can call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, that's 1-800-NEXT-STEP, or you can text NEXT STEP to 53342. Finally, in New York, call the 24/7 Hope line, 1-877-8-HOPE-New York, or text HOPE New York, 467-369. Wes, you do these live reads all the time. How the hell do you keep your guests involved in them? Like this, that like long legal part, dude. Like I know I've got someone watching me. Like I really want it to be entertaining for them, but I haven't found a way. Give me a pro tip here. What's the move?
Um, so I have found that just reading it is the best way to go because the just get through it because your fans just want the content on the other side of it. Um, that's really all it is. I like the like things like Underdog and like other kind of services and stuff. You can kind of give away stuff, and that's not, oh, here's what I think. Here's my tip for tonight and whatever. You can kind of go that route. Just get through it, man.
I feel super confident until about the legal stuff. And then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is taking so long. And like this part's the densest part, and I'm not sure I'm gonna get through. So I appreciate it to our golden questions. Yeah. So this is our mailbag. People write in, they always talk about the Warriors, occasionally get personal. And here's the first. So they're asking, how much do you think this game meant to Klay? But I'm gonna break that up. All right. I'm gonna give you three players, and you covered these guys. I feel like I know them, but I haven't been in a locker room with them. I haven't been on close to them in a podium. You've had a chance to evaluate their personalities. So on a scale of 1 to 10, one, nothing. It's a preseason game. Who gives one fuck? 10, emotionally, this is like a finals game. Like I don't care about what happens as far as the stakes for my team, but personally, this means the world. All right. First player up, Draymond Green, 1 to 10. What do you think?
Can we make a rule
Sure.
where we eliminate seven?
Should I
Because I
show you
feel
on my sheet that my one for Draymond is 7? Yeah, yeah.
because
I mean,
that's where I was.
yes.
I'm like, I think he's about a seven, but
Yeah,
seven is
it's
like
the
the most
fuck
boring
Draymond
number
rule.
on one
That's,
of
that's
ten. So
literally what I have.
yeah, that's exactly. So we agree that it's seven, but if we have the rule where it can't be seven, is it closer to a eight or is it like a 7-6? And I would probably go six with
Yeah.
him. It's not. He's not a splash brother. He's like the angry cousin
Yep.
that comes over and just steals your and breaks your toys. Like that's what he does. So I think he's just kind of fine.
And in certain circumstances, I mean, no, this isn't breaking news. Emotion takes over Draymond.
Hmm.
That used to not be the case, but now
So true.
we saw last year. There's times when it happens, but not all of them. And when it doesn't, he can weaponize his emotions. He can control them. This didn't feel like one of those ones that took over. This is one that he could harness. And I think he was interacting with them. I mean, I think he could tell you that it meant a lot, and he understands like its impact on other people. But I don't think it was life or death for him. I am with you. If I can't
I,
give the
I
7, I give the 6.
I think he got up more for the Jordan Poole matchup a few games ago. I think he was more emotional about that one than this one.
In what way? That he really wanted to win it? That it was just
Yes.
weird to be out there with him? Yeah.
Yeah. And if he can get like one little hip check hard foul, then he could go to bed just fine.
Almost like a unspoken, it did happen. Like it is what it like. I don't know what to tell you.
And we
Like
still hate each other.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And like I've already apologized, so I'm not going to do it again. Like there's not another piece of this. I'm not
I
going to
already
spend
gave
this
you my
time
one fake
feeling
apology. I'm not
fucking
doing it
bad.
again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Like I mean, secretly, I don't feel that bad about it.
All right.
So fuck you. All right, Klay Thompson, 1 to 10. What do you think?
Like 11. Dude, like yeah, 100%. That guy, I love Clay and he does feel the emotions and he understands like moments. He understands what these things mean. I mean, the guy just really like he's really in tune with all that stuff.
Yep.
And I'm not like you could even see like what was it? He was sitting on the court for like a half hour, an hour after that game a couple years ago, and with the towel over his head. Like this guy really in the moment feels that stuff and reacts. So whether or not it was walking in or during or seeing those 400 employees or whatever, at some point that thing was cranked up to 11.
100%.
Yeah.
When I was prepping for the bar, which was a nightmare, just nightmare. Everyone's a psychopath. You run into anybody, they're telling you like how they're prepping because they want you to be like, oh, you're doing the right thing and I'm fucking this up. And the one universal truth across the board is if you ask somebody, why, how are you feeling? Are you nervous about this? If they told you no, just another test. I've taken 1,000 tests. This is nothing. Bullshit. That person was freaking the fuck out. So much so they couldn't even admit it to themselves. Like they didn't even want to go down that emotional corridor that Klay has been universally being like, oh, just another game in November. Like this means nothing. Bullshit. So yes, I take a solid 10 and a half. I can't go to 11 because I'm saving it for this player, Steph Curry. I didn't know what this game meant to him. I mean, and it's not like I've had a conversation with him, but after that reaction, after him doing the night night and then running to the other side of the court and exploding into the camera, I think we got a glimpse of what the hell it meant to him. And I think it's above 10. I think that this game had more of an emotional impact than anyone could have guessed. Do you agree?
I agree with the last part that it had more of an emotional impact than anybody could have guessed. I think it had more of an emotional impact than Steph could have guessed.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
walking into Chase Center, he was at about a 5,
Yeah.
maybe a
Yep.
4. There's nothing like this is his building, it's his team. He's still
Uh-huh.
here. He's got the contract. This is Clay's night. It's gonna
What
be
do you
more
think
emotional for
changed?
him.
I agree with you. And
That it was a close game at the end.
huh.
That's
Yeah.
all it was. I think that pure competitive streak from Steph Curry took over, and he realized, oh, I'm going toe to toe with Clay. And I think maybe right before I think during their shoot around when Steve Kerr told Steph, hey, by the way, your matchup tonight's
Yeah.
Clay.
Yeah.
I think that made it amped him up a little bit. Maybe that took him from a 4 to a 5.
Yep.
But like when he's going actually toe to toe in the third and fourth quarter with Clay in a close game and a back and forth game with whatever is on the line in terms of this NBA Cup thing that we all pretend matters. I, I I think he really got up for it, and we saw that kind of play out on the court. So I think by the fourth quarter, by the time he's in the night night and screaming into the camera, that dude's at a 20.
Yeah.
Like that.
Hell
It's
yes.
it's it's full competitive fire.
Between about 11:30 and midnight last night, maybe a little bit less. Let's say 11:30 and 11:45. I watched his replay screaming into the camera over and over, just over and over, because I mean, I was excited for it and liked it, but I wanted to try to figure out what the hell he said. And I cannot tell you for sure. It's too fast, and I'm not an FBI lip reader, so who the fuck knows?
My first guess, and this is probably the wrong guess, but my first guess was this is what I fucking do. I was
Okay.
like in the moment watching it live. I was like, is that what he said?
So I'll give you a different guess, and we can pull it up if you want, but it's not like Zapruder film. What you
Wait,
really
wait.
can't tell in here. But I thought he might have said, "This is my shit now.
Oh, something like that.
You didn't want to stay here." Is the second portion of it. So I don't look. I don't know for sure. When you get an
Ooh.
opportunity, watch the fucking video. Anybody out there, watch the video. I'm going to say it again so that you can do it as you're watching it. This is my shit now. You didn't want to stay here. If he said that, right? So they asked him about it afterwards, and he said, "I don't know. I have no idea. It was just in passion and off it wet." One, I don't believe that, and it makes me feel
100%.
like yeah, it does. I mean, what are you
You
talking
looked
about?
into the camera
Yeah, what are you
lens.
talking
You
about?
know
And
exactly what you were doing in that
like
moment.
25 minutes ago, dude. Like, I don't, that's it. We're not talking like 4 years ago. Like, no, you mean that giant speech you gave into the camera? Like, you probably remember some of the words. But if he did say that, if there's anything talking about you didn't want to stay here, it's a glimpse into the emotions behind this shit,
Yeah.
and of course it would bother him that they left. There was this thing. Klay came out and said that he told both Draymond and Steph, "I don't want you communicating with the front office." Not before this game,
Mhm.
but before the offer played itself out. I want to know basically what they think of me without your influence. And when they asked Steph about it, Steph said, "Yeah, he did tell me that, but that doesn't mean I listen." And that infers that Steph did try to step in, that he did tell people like, "Oh, I wouldn't mind it." And so that Klay left, yes, we focused on how hard it is for Klay, and that's right. But I think there's a chance that Steph is kind of hurting this shit too, and I think it may have poured out of him last night. I'm not sure, but I think.
I think you got to be right. I just looking at what happened there, like whatever he said, I mean, he was fired up regardless of what the words were. And so if it goes the way that it goes, I saw that, yeah, I heard that report also, and the fact that again, Steve Kerr drove up to Los Angeles from his San Diego
Yeah.
home to have breakfast with Klay Thompson, and he said like, look, this is what it would be if you came back, and that probably looked like a roll off the bench again.
Yep.
It probably looked like a little bit less money. I don't know. And Klay basically gets up from the table and he says, I think it's time for me to go,
Yep.
understanding that he had better offers from maybe the Lakers and the Mavericks. Does sort of speak to like Klay Thompson, like what's that Seinfeld episode? Like I've got hand. He's got the upper hand. Like Klay left with hand, and so maybe you do feel a type of way about that if you're the Warriors.
I would. I mean, I do. I mean, I feel kind of hurt. It was like a jilted lover. Like, so I understand exactly where he was coming from. Is the night celebration the best celebration in the game today? So I mean, just to help you think it out, because I didn't prep you for this. Some other examples: Dame time, which is solid. The pointing to the wrist, like after he hits a big three. The Trae Young cold gesture. I think one that's pretty solid. This one's more ubiquitous. It's not one person, but that too small thing you see people do all the time. There's LeBron's weird stomp and scream move. There's Jamal Murray's bow and arrow, which I don't totally understand, but he does. He does in fact
He
do
stole
that.
that, and he stole it from Wesley Matthews for the record. So I just
Okay.
whatever. But go
Yeah.
ahead.
And he's just banking on nobody knowing that Wesley Matthews had a celebration. It's like and I can see them bring it up to him. He's like, who? And it just immediately moves on. Like there's not another question, nothing
Who's
like
named
that.
Wesley? That's not even a real name. Like,
It's
keep it
bullshit.
going,
It's
guys. Yeah.
complete bullshit. But all right. So, there's just examples. You can take the full field, but is the night the best one today?
It is, and it's not close. First of all, let me just get this take off right now. We got to retire the too small thing. It's stupid. It sucks.
Why?
It's way overplayed. Now, what? Every time you hit a layup, the guy's too small. Like, get over it. Just hit the layup. Keep it moving. It's the worst celebration. It was kind of disrespectful at first, and now it just feels like a automatically generated celebration in
Yeah.
NBA 2K.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, just
Yeah.
like let's move it on. Like we're done. It's had its moment. It's over. Um, so whatever. That's my too small thing. No, the Steph thing is the
That
best
makes me
one.
feel like it's happened to you at some point. Like recently you're on the court and somebody did that and you're like, fuck this. Like I hate it when people do that. It's ridiculous. This is like 2K.
um, I think the night one is the best because it feels like in Mortal Kombat where you hit that secret combination and then you
Yeah.
just get the finish him move,
Yeah. Hell
right?
yeah.
That's what that feels like. You're just like, oh, cool, back, B down,
Yeah.
boom, night, game over, and you're just like, oh shit, like I can't believe I just pulled that shit off in the middle of this thing. That's what
And
it feels like.
it's a microcosm of the whole baby-faced assassin thing too. Like it's
Yes.
fun. I mean, it's fun and
Hmm.
like it's kind of playful and you can see it, but it's also condescending as shit.
Hmm.
And like assassin like. I mean, it's he's literally telling you, I just ended your night. Too fucking bad for you. I just stole this victory, but he's doing it in a way of like, oh, that's fun. Like that's kind of
And he
cuddly.
did it. He did it a little early.
Way early. That's why I think it
Were you
makes it emotional.
nervous?
Hell yeah. I just told you the Klay shimmy shit. So he does that. And in my world,
Right.
I'm still I haven't seen the shimmy. And then Grimes comes out and hits that fucking three. I
Yep.
was like, oh my God, it's gonna happen. Like I literally I had visions. I thought Klay was gonna come out and hit that. And then I was ready to like tweet out, I hate Klay Thompson. Like I've never like a bunch of things I didn't mean, and I wouldn't have been able to
Right.
take back. But no, I was super nervous. I didn't want him to do the night. Like when he hit it, I was like, don't do it yet. Like let's let this play out.
Yeah, so like here in Miami, they'll do at the in the arena, and this isn't a celebration, but the arena every once in a while, like when the game's over in the Miami Heat are winning and it's clear with like a minute or less left, they'll play Pepas, which is just a song that they
Yeah.
play in the arena. And everybody goes crazy because it's a very popular song here, and so everybody just goes nuts, loses their shit, and that's what they do. And there's been like a couple of times where they play it a little too early, and everybody in media row will be like, "Did they just jinx this team? Because these fans are gonna be so pissed." And they actually did do it early once, like 2 years ago, and then they just stopped playing it for like 2 months, and everybody demanded that they bring Pepas back. And I was a little worried that that's what was gonna happen with Night, is that he hit it, and then it was then like they hit Grimes would hit that step back three, and then Klay Thompson would do something in the end, and then they would lose on a night. But because they didn't, it proved my theory earlier that the night thing is the secret Mortal Kombat. There is no coming back from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Klay Thompson, like once Steph hits it, it's over. The game's over. If he hits it with like 15 minutes left in the game's gonna be over because Steph did it.
He starts firing off in the first quarter. I wonder how the people at the Miami Arena decide who has that power to play the song. like when they can actually play it
Oh, it's
is
such a great
because like
question.
it's got to be like this combination of like kind of small level employee, like the
Right.
same person who's deciding when to play YMCA to get people to stand up and do that shit is
Yeah.
also deciding whether or not am I jinxing or am I cementing the win,
Such a great question. It's such a great question. It's such a great question. I'm going to do some reporting on this
Yeah, I
because
love
now
it.
I need to know.
And is it
Um,
just them? Do they have
no,
to make a
it's
call?
got to be a committee or like probably like an ad hoc committee for
Yeah.
sure.
I
But just
imagine like a
whoever's sort of
bullpen.
in the room at the time is like, like, do we think do we like who is this? The Pistons? Yeah, I think. Oh no, wait, we kind of lost to them last time. No, I don't know. And like and then somebody's just like, screw it, hit it.
I like the idea of them having a bat phone in there, but it just goes directly to Pat Riley. And they're like, Pat, can we play it? He's like, no, fuck no. It's like, this is why you don't have this job, like whatever it is.
And all of you are
And who
fired.
knows? Yeah.
Don't
Final
call me
question,
again.
because I've kept you longer than I promised. Is this team, in your mind, a fun story or a contender? Because we're early, but we're out. It's not 5-1 anymore. And they have played some people, and they've looked pretty good and they've got all the stats you'd want. They're good defensively, they're doing all that stuff. But also they're not OKC. They're not Boston. I mean, they're still kind of a talent deficit. So how do you view them?
So this last stretch has been last four game, what, Boston, Oklahoma City, Cleveland, Dallas. Am I missing one? Um,
No, and then they had the Washington victory, and they pulled the game out against Houston that they should have lost. But those are
right.
like the real teams that they beat.
So they go 3-1 on that stretch against legitimately good basketball teams, and that has me thinking, okay,
Yep.
I'm trying. I'm still to answer your question. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm
Yep.
leaning towards fun story because
I
I don't like who's the second best player on this
so
team,
okay.
like scorer.
Perfect transition. Let me
I
change
don't.
the question. Let me change the
Okay,
question because
please,
I
please.
because here's the real thing I wanted to ask. If I'm Mike Dunleavy secretly, this isn't the team I'm fielding. This is the team I'm starting, and then I'm looking around the world and what team caves. Giannis is the perfect example now, and really I'm just biding my time to make a trade. But then they keep winning. And then they go on this road trip, and then they start this chemistry, and then there's this buzz around here. And at some point, if I'm Mike D, do I make the trade? Like, do I sacrifice this chemistry and acknowledge what you said? Let's bring in a second best player. Let's do the traditional route. Or do I just kind of roll with this and see where the hell it goes? So if Mike Dunleavy called you right now, it's like, well, what should I be doing, Wes? Should I still be scouring for trades or give this team a little room to see where it goes? How do you answer that?
Scour for trades.
Still. Yeah.
You got to. And just don't do it for just anybody, right? Like
Yeah.
they obviously had a price tag in mind when it came to Paul George, Larry
Yep.
Markin. And by the way, I think they were right not to make those moves. I don't
Yep.
think that those guys are exactly Larry Markin to me, great player. He's more of a number three on a big championship team. You're looking
Yep.
for a number two. Paul George at this stage of his career, probably also more of a three than a two.
Yeah.
I understand that they wanted both of them, and then maybe that kind of gets him over the top. But it would be for the right guy, but I'd be scouring for the right guy. I would. And honestly, like you almost have so much depth
Yep.
that you could
Yep.
still sacrifice some of these guys and still have depth. Because the reality of this is it's gonna in April, May, June, you're not gonna be playing 11, 12 guys. You can't
Mhm.
do it. You
Right.
just can't do it. So, all right, as long as we still have seven, like literally, as long as we have 7 or 8 guys who we feel good about, we'll figure the rest out.
I agree with you. And I'll give you another reason why I do. One of the other random upsides of this start, and assuming that it continues, I mean, we'll see, right? But if they keep this up, they're building up their social equity around the league. They're becoming a
Hmm.
buyout team again. Like all these veterans who are out there who wouldn't mind playing for a title, see what the hell Steph is up to. And so, like, if you end up sacrificing depth to bring in another big name, it's real possible that you could get some of that depth back with the buyout shit, because these people are going to want to play. And so I think it's worth exploring. Also, if I'm Mike Dean, like, look, but don't make the move right now. Don't hit accept. Like let's
Yep.
see where this goes, see what the options are. There's no rushes, but I would say let's keep our search on. Let's at least be watching everybody, including your boy, the Jimmy Butlers of the world.
More options are only going to become open. And I think it's pretty clear Steph can probably play at this level for another, I don't know, 2 years, let's call it. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
more, but like let's just safely call it 2 more years or this year or next year. So you've got a calendar year to basically figure out
Yeah,
what it's
right.
going to be. So, but you don't have to be desperate either. And I think, by the way, this also bought some equity with Steph, who clearly wants to be competitive and wants
Yeah.
to win.
Yeah.
So if this is what it is, and he's just surrounded by professional players who want to be out there and are competing every single night, and they make it in the second round of the playoffs and lose, like hypothetically,
Yeah.
I think Steph will be like, that was okay.
Yeah.
Like I felt like we had a chance and I felt competitive all season long and the vibes are good. And these are the kind of players that I want to play with.
Yep.
Let's keep this thing going. But also, like, if we could trade for a star, that'd be great.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's also why they paid him so much for that extra year they just gave him. I think they bought his patience a little bit, and it turns out we're not going to use it, hopefully, But it's kind of like there might be some downtimes here, so count your money while we're not contending, and then hopefully we'll get some around you. Wes, look forward to every one of your episodes. There's a reason why I love doing this with you. For people who need way more Goldberg in their life, where do they go?
So I just started hosting the Real GM radio show, weekly NBA show over at Real GM. And so people might have listened to that before. It used to be hosted by Danny LaRue, who's also a Bay Area guy. And so I recently took that over to the start of the season. So I'd really appreciate everybody checking that out, subscribe. And then we recently launched a YouTube channel to go along with it. And it's got like 40 subscribers. So please go and subscribe to that because that would be helpful.
Instead of pimping my channel, I will just confirm what you already know. Wes is fucking excellent at this. You don't need my word for it. You just listen to an hour. But get out there, support him. He is absolutely deserving. With that in mind, go Warriors. And hopefully we'll see you later this week.